Raise your hand if you have a Kindle, a tablet, an iPad at home or with you today. Wow. Keep your hands up. Those that don't have your hands up, could you look at the people with their hands up and realize that that's your customer of tomorrow and that you're going to have to accept that this, thank you, put your hands down. I think that's 30, maybe 40% of the room, which is an aggressive number. When we look at Economist readers, we think that number's in the 30, 40%. So you're all qualified to be Economist readers, and you should take out a subscription tomorrow. So thank you. I'm going to talk about the strategy and the business model. I think there's some very valid points about editorial, but what I want to concentrate on is the opportunity around digital. It is our view that print will decline, print reading of magazines will decline, and that lean back reading, the equivalent of reading a magazine or indeed a book where you lean back and you're engaging in the content, will in future be done on digital devices like the iPad and the Kindle. We see this as a challenge, but also a huge opportunity. So let's just take a little bit of history here. We at The Economist have a DBK strategy, which is Don't Be Kodak. If you show this picture of a roll of film to anyone under 13, they will have no idea what it is. I showed that to my son. He had no concept that there was a thing that you would put in a camera to take a picture. And that is true if you go and ask, indeed, about what these round black things are in the middle. And those are records. And it is true that there is a place for records today, and that actually, if you'll forgive the pun, record sales, vinyl record sales, were at an all-time high last year since 1991. So there is a market for records, but it's not the market that they started off with, and I'll talk a bit about that. So we know that disruption in business school, business professors speak, this thing called disruption happens where new products come along and change your market. And one thing we know is that disruption is continuous. So if you take the film, went to little memory cards, most pictures now are taken on a phone. So that disruption is continuous. If you think about Netflix is now the way that you would consume DVDs as opposed to buying them or getting them in the mail even, you would stream them online. So continuous disruption. What does that mean for the media industry? We absolutely saw that the internet moved people from reading to reading on a computer. That absolutely happened. Everyone's familiar with that. We've seen the story. Interestingly, weekend reading of newspapers is actually growing. The New York Times has seen their weekend reading growing because they're moving into that lean-back space, which is similar to a magazine, a ritual pleasure, something you engage with. The other thing that's fascinating to me about newspapers is that very few products start with a value proposition that says, I'm going to buy this newspaper for $5, I'm going to put it on the table, and I'm going to throw half of it away before I even read it. So when you think about value propositions, there are customer behaviors that are actually you can use in your favor. So we know this happened with newspapers, but what about magazines? This is total magazine sales in the United States for the last 20 years. The top line, and forgive the scales are all a bit higgledy-piggledy, but the top line is total subscriptions. And you can see that for pretty much 20 years, the total subscription sales of all magazines in the US has been pretty flat, and pretty flat even in recessions. So if you think about the recession that happened in 2001, which is sort of in the middle here, where the internet boom went to a bust, you can see that subscriptions to magazines have been pretty static in all that time, except in the last 3 years. The middle line is ad pages in every magazine in the US for the last 20 years. And you can see that we had that dot-com boom where our magazines were so fat, we had to try and find bigger staples to hold them together. And then we had the crash, and you can see that we've got this second drop in ad pages. And in the bottom is newsstand sales, total newsstand sales in the US. Terminal long-term decline, and getting worse. And getting worse because simplistically, if you remember getting on an aeroplane 5 years ago, you would have to go to Hudson News and you would buy 2 hours of entertainment for your flight. You would buy magazines and you would buy a stack of them. Now you get on a plane, you have a device, You've probably got a Kindle or an iPad. The plane probably has Wi-Fi, and if not, there's almost certainly a video in the seat back in front of you. So that world is changing, and it's not coming back. So I don't think there's a renaissance of newsstand. And I think that this last dip in subscriptions is this migration of people giving up reading magazines on paper because of the iPad and the tablet. So it's happening. And when you look at disruption in history, the real problem is the top line is your business model. I'm an existing magazine publisher, newspaper publisher, book publisher, record producer, and along come these disruptions that come up underneath your business. And what I think you have is this period of time when you see these disruptions as additive. So there was a period of time when you had a film camera and a digital camera. There was a period of time when you had a video cassette player next to a DVD player. And then one day you say, I'm getting rid of that old technology. One day you stop going on holiday with 2 cameras and you go on holiday with 1. And in fact, I would argue today you don't even go on holiday with a camera because it's your phone. So there's a period of time when this goes hand in hand, it goes together, and I think as a publisher you are lulled into a false sense of security today, and certainly the people I talk to in this industry feel that this is additive and that everything's fine because it's sort of our print business with a bit of digital. But what you can see with all of these existing traditional technologies is there's a point in time when it just drops off, and I think that's what we have to prepare for. So the record industry didn't prepare, frankly, for that drop-off. The book industry has not necessarily prepared for that drop-off. I would argue, and I would urge everyone to think of that happening in your industry, and it's going to come, and it's going to be real, and it's not coming back. So, magazines. We can see, exactly as the newspaper industry saw, that people are migrating from print to digital. When we asked Economist subscribers a year ago, in 2 years' time, what do you think your primary way of consuming The Economist will be? Print, online, digital. For us, we could define that as tablets. 50% in any age, 50% said in 2 years' time, my primary way of reading The Economist will be digital, will be on a tablet. Not online, on a tablet, because it's the perfect rendering of a magazine. It's that lean-back, engaging device, which the online world isn't in terms of the lean-forward surfing on the internet. And where the readers go, the advertisers will follow. So if you look at this is the rise of internet advertising, and you can see that internet is 26% of people's media consumption, and it now manages to take 22% of total marketing spend. TV is 42 and 43, so there's a good balance in TV. Magazines, 26% of media spend, 7% of consumer time. That is going to balance out, and advertising dollars in print will decline. The place that it's going is potentially mobile, and you can see there that it's 10% of consumer time and 1% of advertising, but also it's going to go into social and content marketing. So, bit doom and gloom, all of that, but we think that there's a huge opportunity in what we think of as Lean Back 2.0 or Magazines 2.0. So you had the ritual pleasure of a piece of paper that you sat on a Sunday morning and read your magazine on. Along comes the internet, which is very lean forward. So we think of the internet for The Economist as the area of the device or the channel for consumers to engage with each other, comment on content, share, social, all of the things that you would expect. But with digital, with the tablet, we see this as the opportunity for Magazines 2.0 because it is that lean back experience that you get with paper. And why is that good for us? And this is a business model conversation. So this is the 4 drivers of circulation profit. So when you think of how you make money out of circulation, there are 4 things that drive circulation profit. One is price, the cost of acquiring a customer, distribution, and volume. So the distribution cost and volume. And I would say to all of you that actually the opportunity for us going forward is around getting more money out of our subscriptions, getting more money out of our content. And I'll show you why in a second. So when you think of price, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing that with tablets, consumers are much more willing to pay for content. much, much more willing. 41% have bought a magazine, 19% are paying for news. We're just about to launch a piece of research with Pew in the US that says of tablet consumption, 25% of tablet users are prepared to pay for news on their tablet. So you have a preparedness to pay. I think the other thing that you need to do, and we've talked about wine and bottles, and I realise I'm what's keeping you from wine and bottles, so I'll be quick. But we've talked about wine and bottles. The thing about price is, why would you charge $4.99 for your magazine on a newsstand and 99 cents on an e-newsstand? What that sort of says is that the paper and the distribution is worth 4 times the content. And I think as publishers, we should sort of get to the point where the content is the most valuable thing that we produce and price accordingly. The other reason for matching your prices in print with prices online is that if in the future you see this decline in print, what you don't want to be left with is a business that's charging 1/4 for the same number of customers and for the same content. So pricing is hugely important in this, and there's opportunity because people are prepared to pay. Acquisition cost, in the old days, which is not that long ago, we would cut down trees and put them in a mailbox and send them out and try and get people to subscribe. And today that is less and less effective because of social and because of online. So our acquisition costs across all of the industry, I think, are falling because of social and referrer and Facebook and Twitter and all the other things that we know about. So acquisition cost is a benefit for the digital world. Distribution, again, it's cheaper to distribute a digital copy than a print copy, but there's also this sort of ongoing argument about Apple not being the best people in the world to do business with. I don't think that's true. I think Apple is a hugely important part of this equation, as are all of these electronic newsstands. They are bringing new customers to you, and these customers prefer to buy that way. So why wouldn't you go along with it? The economics aside, and you'd have to work that out, we're seeing that 65-70% of all of the people who subscribe to digital-only subscriptions to The Economist are new. So those are customers we did not have in print as subscribers. Now, some of those may have been newsstand, but we're absolutely going into new markets and getting new customers by working with people like Amazon and Apple. So there's a huge opportunity around distribution and volume. Today, when we offer a subscription to The Economist, 1 in 4 are opting to get digital only. And we can see that as we model that forward, there is a huge number of people who will be reading The Economist solely as a digital subscriber. What's going up is the total number of people reading The Economist. What we're dealing with is that migration from print to digital. So the opportunity around digital is still positive for us. Advertising, we talked a bit about this. Almost, and we can talk about paywall, and I think paywall's a slight misnomer because every media company pretty much needs advertising to make a profit. And advertising is an important part of this equation. The challenge with this is that the print model is effectively advertisers paying for the inefficiency of print distribution at one level, but it's low volume and high CPMs. As we move to a digital model for tablet advertising, we will move to an online advertising model which is low CPMs and high volume. That is unsustainable in the long term for this industry, I think. Online advertising rewards scale, and it rewards targeting, and it doesn't necessarily reward the things that print magazines have been known for in terms of advertising. So there's a huge challenge around this. I think the opportunity, and something we need to start building as an industry, is to position tablet advertising as the interruptive, disruptive nature, the tactile nature of a print advert in a magazine, coupled with the measurability and engagement of online. And I think there's an opportunity, if you think of magazine advertising 2.0, there's an opportunity for us to regain some ground here from online and make actually creative matter and interruption matter and connection and engagement be measurable with the tablet. So I think there's an opportunity again in that, but that's about industry education and the industry moving towards putting a higher value on digital advertising in tablets. And we know that the advertising we're running today in tablets works. People will click on the ads, people want to make a purchase, they go to websites. And in fact, people who have paid for content on a tablet are far, far more engaged with the advertising. So the black lines here are people who've bought content on a tablet, are clicking through and engaging with advertising far, far more than other people. So again, opportunity to prove that advertising works on tablets. And the third element of this is interactivity and e-commerce. People will click through and buy. People will engage. People will surf. People will do things that advertisers want them to do on a tablet, far more, in fact, than you're seeing in online. So, I believe print reading will decline. We're seeing it happening in the US, in the Economist global market. We're seeing it happening far quicker here. When we put out a subscription offer, 75% of our readers are wanting to and paying to have digital. So we have a bundle subscription, 50% will pay more for print and digital, 25% will pay for digital only, and 25% are saying, I only want print. So if you think that forward and take that forward, that means that increasingly we are going to be a digital business, and we have to engage with these changes. But there's huge opportunity. Hopefully I've shown that. So it is an opportunity, but you have to start creating the value in digital now. Last year was the first year that digital music sales overtook CDs in the US. So if you think about how long iTunes has been around and you think about all of the other ways of buying digital music, it's only now that the majority of sales are actually digital and not physical. E-books still only represent something like 20% of total book sales in the US, but the graphs are steep and that's changing very, very quickly. So I would urge you to start thinking about digital as an opportunity and moving to create value in this new world and not consider it as an add-on to print. You have to consider it as a new opportunity and a new business. And lastly, from an advertising standpoint, right now the best share of voice of any medium that an advertiser can get is on tablet advertising, because the readers have gone to these tablet devices faster than the advertising dollars, so your share of voice is actually really quite high at the moment, and we've got this little window of opportunity. So if you're thinking of advertising, tablets are a really interesting way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul.